All right, Algebra 2. Here is part 2 of that section 2.4 videos set. Okay, we're going to do a little bit more practice with what we've just been doing, which is finding the equations of lines given some information. But now here are some different pieces of information I can give you. Okay, so part A has two parts to it. So I'm actually going to just separate it. That way you know it has two parts to it. Okay, so I want the equation of a line that's passing through negative 3 comma negative 5. And it's parallel, for one part, parallel to this line. And I also want it to be perpendicular to the same line. So I'm going to get two different equations here. Let's start with the parallel one. Okay. Well, remember, we want one of two combinations of information. I either want a slope and a y-intercept, or I want a point and a slope. Okay. Well, I'm not really given that information immediately. I'm given a point. But think about it. I'm not given the slope immediately, but is there any way you can get the slope from the information you're given? Pause the video really quick and see if you can figure out what the slope is going to be. Because this problem does tell you the slope. Okay? Okay. Hopefully you said that the slope is negative 4. Because if I want a new line that's going to pass through negative 3 comma negative 5 and be parallel to negative 4x plus 1, parallel is the key word. That means that these two lines need to have the same slope. So from that, I can gather, okay, my slope has to be negative 4. There is no way around that. And my point is x1 is negative 3 and y1 is negative 5. Let's go ahead and find our equation now that we have everything that we need. Y minus negative 5 is equal to negative 4 times x minus negative 3. Okay, careful with your double negatives. So the left-hand side, we get y plus 5 equals to negative 4 x plus 3. Okay, you don't always have to do that out. If you already know ahead of time that that is going to be plus 5, you could just start here. Okay? Distribute our negative 4. Be very careful here, okay? So negative 4x, the negative gets distributed to both terms. This becomes minus 12. Y plus 5 still on the left. Last step, let's subtract our 5. And we get that the equation of our line is negative 4x minus 17. Okay, good. So that is the equation of the line that's parallel to this one that we started with. Now let's figure out the equation of the line that's going to be perpendicular to that line. Okay? Same kind of idea. The slope, it's not given to you immediately, but it's hidden in the answer, it's hidden in the information that they're giving you. Pause and see if you know what the slope is going to be. Perpendicular, we want an opposite reciprocal slope. What is the opposite and reciprocal value of negative 4? That's positive 1/4. So that's our slope for this new line. Same point though. Y plus 5 is equal to positive 1/4 x plus 3. Fractions. I know you guys hate them, but we're going to deal with it, okay? Distribute the 1/4. No going to decimals. Okay, when we're dealing with lines, let's leave them as fractions so we can get a better idea of what that slope is going to look like, okay? So 1/4 x plus, what's 3 times 1/4? Well, that's just 3/4, right? 1/4 times 3 over 1. Then we multiply across. All right, here's the part where you're going to just want to hate me, right? Because, well, if we need to subtract the 5 over to finish our answer, it's going to be 3/4 minus 5, and we need common denominators. So if you need to do it on the side, let's do it. 3/4 minus 5 over 1. Let's get a common denominator. What is the common denominator going to be? 4. Multiply the numerator and denominator by 4. Or another way of saying that is multiply 5 over 1 by 4 over 4, which is 1, right? Think back to when you first learned this stuff. The reason why you can do this is because 4 divided by 4 is 1. When we multiply something by 1, nothing happens to it, which is why we're allowed to do it, because it stays the same. nothing happens to it mathematically, but cosmetically it changes. It becomes 20 over 4. Now you can subtract the two. What's 3 minus 20? Negative 17 over 4. Remember, we don't subtract denominators. The only time denominators change is when we do multiplication or division. Only time. Well, and then I guess when you're doing common denominators too, right? But when you're adding and subtracting, those denominators stay the same. Okay, so then we did it. Y equals 1/4 x. Ooh, ignore that negative. It's supposed to be a positive. Pretend like it never happened. X minus 17/4. There's the equation of your line. Okay. Hopefully that sounds good so far to you. If not, rewind it and just rewatch it a few more times. Okay? And then again, if not, you can always ask me in class. Part B. Has undefined slope and passes through negative 6, 2. We talked about this today in class. Well, I guess, yeah, we talked about it today in class. Losing track of the days, sorry. Undefined slope, remember, that's a vertical slope, vertical line. That's what it means to be undefined, because we're dividing by 0. We have a bunch of rise, but we have no run. And since we're rising only, that means we're going up only, which means it's vertical. Okay? And it's passing through negative 6, 2. So just to estimate it, here's negative 6, 2. Give it a good old estimate. It doesn't have to be perfect. And it's a vertical line passing through there. Well, do you remember how we express I can't find the words. How we express vertical lines. How do we express them in equation form? Hopefully you said using x equals, right? Because remember, whenever we have x equals, that means y can be whatever it wants as long as x stays at a specific value. Well, which x value is this line passing through? Negative 6. So the equation of my line is negative 6. X equals negative 6. Same idea for part C. Has 0 slope and is passing through 3, negative 1. Over 3, down 1. There's my estimate for negative 3, 1. Sorry, I keep doing it backwards. Positive 3, negative 1. And it's a horizontal line because we have 0 slope. Okay, well here it's the opposite of this one. I am passing through negative 1 as a y value all the time, but I can be whatever x value I want to be. Well, then that means that my y is equal to just negative 1. Now, here's kind of another way to think about it. It has 0 slope, so I can definitely say 0x, but then 0x is nothing, right? And then my y-intercept, you don't get it immediately from here, but if you draw the line, it's horizontal, it's going to pass through 0, negative 1 because of the fact that it's horizontal. So then you know your y-intercept is negative 1, which is how we get y equals negative 1. Okay, so that's the equations of vertical lines and horizontal lines. All vertical lines will be x equals a constant, and that constant is whatever x value it passes through. All horizontal lines will be y equals a constant, which is whatever y value that horizontal line passes through. Okay? Rewatch that part if you need to go over that again, because that can be a little confusing sometimes. Y is one of them x equals and y is one of them y equals, right? So make sure you're solid on that. Last example before I have you try one on your own, okay? Here, this one's going to be a little funky because we're going to do something we haven't done yet. Has a slope of negative 3/2 and it passes through here, but with the extra step that I actually want you to write this in standard form. Remember that standard form is this thing. Okay? And standard form, remember, has some conditions to it. We want to make sure that all of these are whole numbers. We don't want any fractions here. And then on top of that, we don't want both of these to be 0. One of them is allowed to be 0, but not both of them at the same time. Okay, those are our conditions. No fractions, and not both of these 0. We'll need to keep that in mind when we're solving this. Okay, so our first step is, well, we can't go immediately to this because we don't know how A, B, and C are connected to the slope or some random point on the line. So let's do what we know first, which is our point slope form. We have a point, so y plus 7 equals negative 3 halves, which is our slope, x minus 4. Okay. So then now what we need to do is simplify. So let's distribute our negative 3 halves. Y plus 7 is equal to negative 3 halves x. And then negative 3 halves times negative 4. If you need to do that on the side, that's okay. I'll join you just so everybody's on the same page. Negative 3 halves, not 3/4, times negative 4 over 1, right? The 2 and the 4, we can simplify those a little bit, right? So that's going to become, since we can divide both of those by 2, 1 and 2, negative. Negative 3 times negative 2, that's going to be plus 6. And then we subtract our 7 over. We get y is equal to negative 3 halves x plus 6 minus 7, that's going to be minus 1. Okay, so now we're going to need to get here. The first thing we probably want to do is, well, remember, they all have to be whole numbers. We can't have any fractions, and we have a fraction here. So what should we do to get rid of that 2? Think about that for a second. Go ahead and pause the video. What am I going to do to get rid of that denominator of 2? Keeping in mind that whatever we do to one side of the equation, we got to do it to the other. Oh, excuse me. Well, hopefully you said multiply both sides by 2. Multiply this side by 2, and multiply this entire side by 2. So we're going to have to distribute the 2. 2y is equal to negative, when we multiply these two together, the 2's are going to simplify each other out. So that's negative 3x minus 2. Okay, we're one step closer. Now we got to make it look like this. And by this, I mean all the variables are on the left, and we have a constant on the right. Well, that's not too bad. All that means is we got to add our 3x to the left. We get 3x plus 2y is equal to negative 2. And there is our standard form. Okay. Hopefully that sounds good to you. And, you know, maybe you're asking yourself, well, why do we care so much about standard form? Well, if you remember from 2.3, standard form, there are times where we can use that standard form to help us graph the equation of the line. Okay, we can use the intercepts, plugging in 0 for x to get a y-intercept, plugging in 0 for y to get a y-intercept. Okay, so now go ahead and try f. Passes through negative 1 comma 3 and negative 6 comma negative 7. And notice that this is two parts. I want you to write it in slope-intercept form, and then I also want you to write it in standard form. Go ahead and give that a shot, and then look. I will see you in the next video, the last one for this section.